The Bravemaker Show is hosted by Tony Gappistone and Christina Jackson. Thanks for tuning in. It's showtime.
Hey, it's showtime, and this is a special edition of The Bravemaker Show. Those of you who watch religiously know that we go every Friday, but we've got an online film festival happening, so it's happening on Monday. Hey, everybody, my name is Tony Gappistone. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a Caucasian guy with brown hair sitting in my studio with a black backdrop that says Bravemaker, wear my black glasses, and I'm always with my fun, collaborative, storytelling friend, Christina Jackson. Welcome, Christina.
Hey, what's going on, Tony? I'm Christina Ray Jackson. I'm an actor, comic book writer, singer. My pronouns are he, she, they. And I can't believe I'm saying this for the first time in June, but I'm queer and happy Pride. I can't believe we've done it's almost the end of the month. And I got to say, happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride. This is the last few days of June. And I love, a friend of mine has given me some really cool language around the Pride celebration that because for so long LGBTQIA people have had to live in shame or they've been oppressed, this celebration month is really celebrating proudly who they are and accepting who they are. And I love that. And we're going to celebrate great storytellers of all kinds today on the show. And we're really grateful that we have so many cool people who have been selected a part of the Bravemaker Film Fest. So Christina, with no further ado, let's welcome our 4 filmmakers. Just imagine that you saw all of their films and you're welcoming them up to the panel discussion. They're sitting in directors' chairs. That you just ate a bunch of popcorn, and we're going to talk about their films.
Beautiful. So we got everyone here. Let's jump in. Let's jump in with Off the Grid. And we want to know, our first question for each one is, why did you make this film? Why was it important to tell this story?
Yeah, so I started this film actually as a photo project, and I had photographed all these different people living off the grid because I just felt like I was consuming too much. And I wanted to see how people were living more sustainably. And so I went off and found lots of people across California. And then I was like, this needs to be a film. We need to know more about this. We really need to get into their lives to feel inspired by what these people are doing. And it was very, very inspiring to learn from them. So from going from the desert with Garth, and then we go into a tree up in the redwoods with Carbohydrate, who is a tree sitter, living completely off the grid up in the trees. And then we have, let's see, who's next? Mel and Bo, who are living on a boat with their kids and teaching them how to live on the water and then actually building a life to sail around the world. So it was just very inspiring, and for a lot of different ages of people to see how you can live that way.
Rachel, can I say, for each one of the stories that you shared, there was an element about it that was just very enticing. It's something about them, living off the grid, making their own way. And especially the family living on the water. I thought it was amazing that you were able to capture that and share that with, I think, the majority of the population, we just have this idea about city dwelling and about life, and connected off the grid, just it will blow your mind about the possibilities of what your life could look like in raising a family. Okay, so let's throw the question over to Mel. Mel, let's talk about Retribution. Why was this story important to share? Why did you want to visually share this story with us?
Sure. Well, I wrote and directed Retribution inspired by my own experiences. I was working at my dream job when I was hit by a stolen car and seriously injured, and my entire future was in jeopardy. And I also lost my fiance. And around the time that I went to court, well, that was one of the most devastating experiences of my life, where my sexual orientation was put on trial instead of the person who nearly killed me and changed my life irrevocably. And so at that same time, I noticed that there were rising movements for racial justice all over the world. And I wanted to find a way to tell my story, but retold through the eyes of fictional characters that could be more intersectional and inclusive. And so that's the place that Retribution was born from, that amalgamation of experiences.
I love that. And you really can feel that in this film, that you put your story and your heart into this. It was dramatically different from any of the other films, you know, that we've been viewing. Actually, everyone's films are dramatically different. I think that's what made them really exciting to see and to be exploring the worlds that you guys are sharing with us. So let's jump over to Miles Levin, Under the Lights. Wow, so beautiful. Tell us a little bit about this story. How did it come to life? Why was it important for you to share this story?
Thank you. So for those who haven't seen it, Under the Lights is about a boy with epilepsy who's so desperate to feel like a regular kid, he goes to prom knowing that the lights will make him have a seizure. And I made the film because I have epilepsy. I've had it my whole life. And epilepsy is fascinating in that it affects so many people. It affects 1 in 26 people. So that's someone in every time you have a movie theater screening, right? Every time you cross the street. But the stigma is horrible. It's awful. A lot of similar stories to what the LGBTQ family has faced, which is people get kicked out of their families. People aren't hired because of stigma. People are fired from their jobs because of stigma. Mm-hmm. I used to work at a camp where kids 15, 16 years old, they would tell me, I have never made a friend in my whole life. And it just shook me to my core. And what I noticed was every time I was in a room where epilepsy awareness was trying to be accomplished, some kind of fundraising gala or some kind of speech or something like that, the people that show up are people who have epilepsy or who care about people with epilepsy. So stigma has not changed since the 80s, the 60s. It really hasn't changed at all. And in order to reach people, you have to be in the places where they want to be. And cinema is one of the only places in American culture where people leave their house with the goal of seeing something they haven't seen before. And so that's something I wanted to be a part of. So I made this film, and we're going to make the feature film next. The script's written, and I'm just so enormously proud of it. And I think it'll do a service. And it's been a cool ride.
We have one of our friends, one of our viewers, Brindisi, who's watching, and she says she has epilepsy. And Christina and I have worked with her on a project before. So it's definitely a important cause. You are reaching people. We believe stories can change the world, right? It's one of the greatest vehicles of empathy. So yeah, thank you. Thank you all for making films that take us down literally in someone else's shoes and help us see others and also see ourselves. Really cool.
Beautiful. All right, Joe Brown, Operation Wolf Patrol. Such a wild documentary. Oh my goodness. Can I tell you what I took away from that, which I thought was huge, was that the sacredness of life. I really feel like globally that's been lost, the sacredness of living things, animals, plants, human beings. So please tell us about your film. Why was it important for you to make?
Yeah, thanks, Christina. I think that's a really good thing to know. The activist that I followed on this film, I followed an activist for about 4 or 5 years who was trying to end wolf hunting and poaching in really across the country, but the film takes place in Wisconsin. He frequently claims that human issues always rise to the front of, most news sites and such, and that there's many animal issues as well. And sometimes we disregard animal life. So I made the film to highlight animal abuse in hunting communities in Wisconsin, specifically against wolves, but there's also other animals involved, bears and things. And I wanted to expose this. I was following the activist who I think had an interesting story. His name is Rod Coronado, and he has a history of activism about 30 years long. And he's done some pretty interesting things on behalf of animals. So I wanted to highlight what he was doing and also highlight what was going on with the animals. Halfway through making the film, the state of Wisconsin outlawed photography on public lands. Photography of hunters. So that was more reason to continue making the film, because I consider photography free speech. And yeah, it was pretty wild ride. It took many, many years, about 6 years to complete. And I'm happy to be sharing it with you all now.
Thank you so much. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, as an animal lover myself, and I have 3 daughters who often wonder what they can do in the world to make it better, and animals tends to be what they gravitate to. I am definitely touched by this type of work. And you said 6 years in the making. Just that is huge, and that makes me want to lead into our next topic of discussion: is what did you all learn from making your films, and what are you going to do different? I just love this question because I just finished my feature film, and after I slept for almost 24 hours straight, I started a document of all the things I know I'm going to do different next time, all the little tips and tricks and things that I wish I would have done to make it smoother. So I'm curious for all of you, and since we just ended with you, Joe, we'll go back around the opposite way. What's something you learned and that you'll do different on your next documentary?
Okay, so we're starting with me again.
You got it.
Okay, sure, I can do that. Well, as I pointed out, it was a long haul for this documentary. I never meant to spend that much time on it. And money was difficult the whole time. So I would probably come up with a better funding strategy. One of the issues with my film I found over the years was that it was a film that was difficult to fund. So the activist Rod Coronado, who you're going to see on screen here in a minute, probably, he's been called an eco-terrorist, and he has spent time in prison for some of his actions. Nobody's really interested in funding a film on somebody with such extreme views. So that made it really difficult. I guess in the future, I'm going to look for more fundable films. However, I'm still happy that I told the story, or I guess proud of myself for telling a story that was difficult to tell. But I would, for anybody getting into filmmaking, make sure your story is fundable, or you can fund it yourself. So.
Can I say Rod Coronado, though, without him in that, his passion and determination is like a wake-up call. It's like this, he's fighting for our humanity, really. So it was worth it. I don't know how much trouble it was for the 6 years, but it is a beautiful story and an issue that you're bringing to light. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
And for those of you watching live or on the replay or listening on the podcast, you have until June 30th to watch all of these great films.
Yes.
Bravemaker.com/filmfest. $5 for our shorts and $10 for the features. Let's go to Miles, Under the Lights. What did you learn? By the way, great cast. Even the guy who played the lead has kind of had a vibe of you. I kept looking at your pictures going, it's not him. I want to make sure. Yeah, but what did you learn? What would you do differently?
Everybody always wants to assume it's an autobiography. I learned to always go with your gut. Always go with your gut. And I had a few moments throughout the film where I had people tell me, you really should shoot it this way. You really should shoot it this way. And I would shoot it both ways. And sure enough, that feeling in your gut of what you think is the right decision, always the way to go. We shot the film, had an alternate ending where everything just kind of turns out okay. Like sunshine and roses kind of thing. And it just killed the message. And it was an awful, movie. And so I went with my gut, and I think you really always have to do that. I think with the feature film, it's going to be a big challenge because we're going to be a lot more raw and a lot more honest and cover the family dynamic and a lot of the nuances of living with epilepsy that I think are going to challenge viewers. And it's really gonna require that I follow my own advice on that, or it's all gonna come crumbling down. So if anyone's interested in learning about that, underthelightsfilm.com. If you want to reach out, or if you have an epilepsy story you'd like to share, I love meeting people through these film festivals. It's been really wonderful. So I hope people will say hi.
It's awesome.
Miles, I love that.
Yeah.
Challenging
Christina, go ahead.
viewers. I love the idea of challenging viewers as filmmakers, creating content that is going to help people not just be entertained, but to grow as human beings. I think that's amazing. Amazing.
I think too, from the filmmaker standpoint, the go with your gut is such that was my mantra for my 3 weeks of making my film. Every day I'd say, go with your gut, Tony, go with your gut, because you're making a million decisions a minute. This shirt or this shirt on the main actor, this prop or this prop on the table. It's like, oh my gosh, you're just constantly making decisions. And anytime I felt confused, I just say, what is my gut telling me? Do I like this take? I didn't like that take. I know the AD is telling me we only have 10 minutes, but I need to do another one because and I agree with you. It never let me down. It never let me down. So yes, filmmakers, go with your gut. Put that on a t-shirt. Okay. Go with your gut. Thanks, Miles. We lost Rachel, I think, but she's back. Here we go. Let's go to Mel. What'd you learn? What would you do different?
Sure. I mean, I would say that working on Retribution was by far the most magical experience that I've ever had working on a project. And what I learned is just the incredible power of collaboration and the importance of a team that really, really believes not only in the project, but each other, and that comes together to eat every day to find a positive way to solve the inevitable problems that crop up when you're shooting, because you can plan within an inch of your life and then you start shooting and then that's what actually happens. And I felt so unbelievably blessed. I had never had the elevating experience of working with so many other people who just their positive attitude and the gift that they individually brought to their position and their role, whether it was someone who was just starting their career or someone who had been working for a longer period of time and was just simply passionate about the message and the story of the film, who wanted to give back. I was just so delighted and inspired. Like with our costume designer, she had spent many years in theater, but she was transitioning to film. So on the one hand, she had this tremendous amount of experience, Carolyn Mazuka, and yet on the other hand, like the film side of things, she was still kind of like learning how her theater experience translated. And as soon as I sat down and I showed her like I build like Pinterest boards for every character. And so I'm like, here's my Pinterest board for, Nat, the main character. And here's for her love interest, Lucy. And one of the most magical things was like listening to her reflect on all the ideas that I already had circulating in my head, but how she heard them differently and how she built like a color story to create connection and relationship between our two female leads and their love, and how that color story continued after the tragedy of Lucy, who's the fiance who sadly is killed in the story, how to create that connection and yet have her echo through the film. Even when she's no longer there, she's still present in like Nat's mind, and as Nat's trying to seek justice for her passing and her loss and her untimely death, we still see the echo of that color. And I felt like I just learned so much about the power of that sort of teamwork and collaboration, that all I would do differently really is just lean into it even more and be inspired by that to make my asks even bigger, to start the collaboration even sooner, to give us even more time to like percolate together.
Great.
Phenomenal advice.
Yeah, great advice. I also hear in between those lines too, taking chances on people who you're going to bring on your team, to say, oh, someone has theater experience but no film experience. Others might go, they're not going to work. But you seeing the qualities and skills that they could bring to that set, phenomenal. And I think all of us as indie filmmakers, we know how valuable it feels to be valued, to see someone take you on and say yes to you when this industry can be so cutthroat and we're going so fast, we kind of trample on one another. So I love and appreciate that you brought the value of affirming people and teamwork. That's fantastic. Thanks, Mel. All right. And Rachel.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that, like, looking back at everything, not being able to come in person and share the film was really hard for me, because attending film festivals in the past, it was such a way to meet people and connect and share your film. So I learned that's something huge. I want to be with people, and I want to get the film maybe in classrooms, and think about how can I do that when you're not really planning for COVID to hit and something like, this, where we're not next to each other talking about the film. So that was something that I'm really realizing I missed, being in person, and thinking more long-term of educational purposes. Like, could I get this into schools? Can I go around to smaller theaters and do it that way? And then another thing is crowdfunding earlier, and not so late in the game. I was just so passionate in the beginning. It was like, I'll do whatever, but that was really hard. It was a really hard go to do it that way. And so that was a huge takeaway for me, to start getting people on your team earlier.
Such good advice. And I would add to that, having just come off my feature, is it's okay to start without having all of the funds in place and all the people, because sometimes we wait so long. Like, I was hoping I'd raise this amount of money and it did not come. But we just started, and I just told people, hey, I'm going to pay who and what and when I can. And are you okay with that? And we created some contracts that were basically deferred, and people were cool with that and passionate enough to say, I'll work on this project with the hope and trust that these funds will come in the future. And I totally agree and affirm you, Rachel, in that. Like, get as much done as you can early, and at the same time, hold it loosely and do what you can. Make whatever movie you can with whatever comes in. That's great. Awesome. Last question, Christina, bring it on.
Last question. Yeah. What's up next? We want to know, what is your next exciting project, and where can we find you? Let's start with, because I believe Under the Lights is going to become a feature. So let's start with you, Miles. What's up next for you?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I feel awesome about the script, and it only took 2 years to get there, but finally feeling like it's ready. And I mean, you guys are talking about this right now. Like, feature films don't just happen. No movie just happens. And so I am asking whatever God will listen, right? If anyone feels moved by this film and you want to talk about it, or you feel that you want to contribute in any way, your talent, your resources, your time, if you just want to talk about it, I love talking with people. I really hope people will reach out at the website, underthelightsfilm.com. We also have a mailing list, which I found is so useful, because you meet these great people at film festivals like this, and then they can't find you anymore. So that's the best way to get together. And the social media channels as well, so heartwarming. The actors in the film, their past was with Disney Channel, and so these tweens, they're crazy. They make fan art, and some of them have never heard of epilepsy before, and they're saying, I want to know what this is. Can you tell me more? And we're starting to see this change. That I've been involved in this community forever, my whole life, and it's beautiful. It's really moving to see a 13-year-old kid reach out and say, hey, what do I do if my classmate has a problem? Or I think my classmate might have this. How do I talk to them? Movies are the answer, man.
That is so beautiful. You are cultivating a more compassionate culture. And I think it's amazing. And where can we find you? What are your social media?
Instagram, Under the Lights Film, and you can find the drawings there. If you need a good cry, go for it. I'm lucky to get to be a part of all this, you know, and that's the real blessing for me.
The drawings are so cool. I love, yeah. And our community is very social media connected and interactive. So reach out to all these filmmakers, because you never know. You might be on a virtual panel today, and then 3 years from now working together at some capacity. You just never know. Awesome.
All right, let's ask Rachel, where can we find you and what's up next?
Oh, Rachel, you're on mute.
Okay, there we go. You can find me on Instagram at Rachel BUJALSKI. And yeah, so I'm continuing the finding more people living off grid. Gonna go back to my same 3 characters and dig in deeper, tell more of their stories. Where are they now? And then also working on a big multimedia piece around the housing crisis. So really connected to this theme around home and why do we choose the homes we do or not choose. And the housing crisis is such a big topic right now, and it's something that I'm just really passionate about telling. And now after a lot of people have lost jobs and things have been pretty crazy this last year, a really important thing to focus on. So I'm doing a big multimedia piece around that. But yes, you can find me at rachelbujalski.com and Instagram.
Thank you, Rachel. I love that you are pointing our attention towards the housing crisis and thinking outside of the box for solutions. I think that's going to point us in a really exciting direction. Hopefully we find something that's going to work in our country and we can address this issue that's going on. Let's throw it over to Joe Brown. Where can we find you and what's up next?
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, you can find me most easily on the web at wolfpatrolfilm.com, and you can learn about upcoming screenings and some of the news related to the film. I guess I have a lot of things coming up next. I just signed a distribution deal for the film with a company out of London called Journeyman Pictures, so I'm excited about that. They're going to be getting it out there even further for me. And then I teach at a university here in Denver, the University of Denver. I'm really excited to be starting to build an environmental filmmaking curriculum there. And we've got a lot of things going on. We're working on a short about an issue known as tree inequity. And so this is just the idea that some neighborhoods have more and better trees and shade than other neighborhoods. And this is going to be a problem as global warming gets worse. So we're trying to link up with groups that are trying to plant more trees around the city. I've also got a project going about an activist group trying to challenge a big industrial polluter that I think will be a feature, but I don't want to reveal too much about that yet. So lots of good stuff going on. And I guess I just want to throw one other bit of advice out there, because I feel like my what I learned answer was not the best, which was find a fundable film. You can't always find a fundable film, right? And sometimes you've just got to do it. So I think I'd say, since Miles and others are maybe going to be working on features, that get used to the idea that things will take the time they take, right? So
yeah.
You can push things, you can try to make things go quickly, and I agree with Rachel and others that you should try to do things, with passion as much as you can in the beginning. But I think it's okay if a film takes 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years to make. It's hard, but things take the time they take, and sometimes it takes a few years for things to click or for you to get the right, funder or whatever it might be. So, yeah, wolfpatrolfilm.com. Thank you.
Beautiful, compassionate advice for filmmakers. And I'm working on a documentary now too. And I do feel that pressure, like, well, how quickly do I have to turn this around? Like 6 months, a year? It'll take the time that it takes. That's straight from Joe Brown. Let's throw the question over to Mel. Where can we find you and what's up next?
Sure. You can find me on Instagram at Aikimuse, AIKIMUSE. And that's where you can find out about everything that I'm working on. So it's a catch-all. And I realized that I didn't actually summarize the film at the start. So Retribution tells the story of a queer Latinx Army airborne officer who comes home from deployment to marry her girlfriend. But on the eve of their engagement party, they're in a terrible accident. And when the court system fails them, she has to decide how far she's willing to go to make things right. And so the next step for that project, since I always saw this as a larger story, is that I have been working on the pilot and I intend to turn it into a television show. And we're already starting process with that. And we also have some good news. We just found out we're going to be screening at the Diversity in Cannes showcase during the Cannes Film Festival in France starting next week. So we'll be traveling and starting to do some in-person festivals. I'm just so sorry that this was not one of the festivals that we could go to. I was really hoping it would be because everyone's so great and fantastic. I know, so close. So next time. But so that's what we're really excited about right now. My vision for the story is that this is an intersectional story that needs to be told. Too many people are going before our court system and are not experiencing equal justice. And I deeply believe in the power of storytelling to create empathy and visibility for communities that are too often not seen and not made visible. And my hope for the story is that in creating this inclusive world that encapsulates both our main characters and the important people in their lives, we can all go through this story together and have a sense of connection and community and awareness for how we can all be part of that change to make a difference, to ensure that equal justice is something that is not just something that we talk about, but it is in fact a right that we can hand down for generations.
Love your mission. Yep. It's more of that. Mel, yes.
All right. And did we get everybody on that one? We did, right? We got you all.
Yeah,
okay, cool. Sorry, my brain. Well, this is the time of the show when we do our favorite things of the week or favorite things of the day, whatever you want.
Brave Faves. TV shows, films, books, songs, technology, clothing, podcast, food, and more. These are a few of our favorite people, places, and things. Brave Faves.
All right, Christina Jackson always starts us off. What you got?
My brave fave is Luca. It's available now on Disney Plus. You know, as a queer kid growing up, the animation landscape didn't show me too much love, but they are definitely turning that around with Luca. It is a beautiful movie and a great way to wrap up Pride Month, and it's family friendly. So definitely jump into that. That's my brave fave.
I'm so excited to talk more about this with you, Christina, off podcast
I
sometimes.
know.
I want to hear your take. That's good. All right, good. Let's go to Joe Brown. What you got?
Yeah, well, so along with the organization that I chronicled in my film, Wolf Patrol, I wanted to highlight another organization called Project Coyote, which is actually based in California, and they're doing a lot of great work to expose abuse of wildlife across the United States. So if you're interested in the issues in my film, you might want to check out this organization as well.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll share these links in our show notes. And Miles.
There's a show on Hulu called Man Seeking Woman, and I love magical realism and just stories that have no rules at all. And it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a very long time.
Man Seeking Woman. Sounds good.
That's exciting.
Right.
Yeah.
There's so many shows out there. Like every time someone shares a brave fave, I'm like, okay, listing. Okay, We'll get to that. That's good. Rachel, what you got?
Can I do an oldie?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, because I had a couple things. I was like, oh my gosh, we just got a beehive in our backyard, and I've been loving watching the bees. I feel like that really connected to my whole theme of living off the grid. So we're making our own honey.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's
right
on.
That's awesome. Cool. And Mel.
Yeah, so my fave for the week is this new HBO Max TV show, Generations. It is a queer coming-of-age story set in high school. I am adoring all the diversity of characters on screen and the lives lived, and seeing what Generation Z has to teach us about inclusivity and acceptance and growing up together in a time when you can just be who you are. Not that it's ever easy, but the way that they support each other and fight for each other. And shout out to my friend, Michelle Denise Jackson, who just wrote her first episode of television in this series. Her episode is amazing. I'm in love with this show. Drop everything, watch this show. It's well worth it.
It's on HBO Max,
awesome.
right?
HBO Max, Generations.
Super cool. And I think it was created by a dad, a 17-year-old. It's like a teen and her dad. I think I heard a podcast about that.
That is correct. Yeah. I believe the dad directed Cake, and the daughter was like 17 at Yale when she came up with the series idea.
So awesome. Go watch Generations. I'll definitely put that on my queue. My brave fave is this t-shirt here that was created by artist Natalie Matters. So huge shout out to Natalie Matters. She is designing a bunch of t-shirts for BraveMaker, and this one is Brave Your Way. And I realized I forgot to start our show. We always ask each other that question, but she's made this into a really cool shirt, and I love it. At our merchandise, this is like a shameless plug, but on our merchandise site, you can order t-shirts in any style and or material that you like. So I'm like almost every week I'm ordering a new shirt. So I probably have a problem to deal with, but huge shout out to Natalie Matters. Thank you. We'll put her Instagram in the show notes as well, because you should follow her. She's super fantastic. All right, well, that's our show today. Before we do our outro here, I just want to say thank you to all of our listeners and watchers. Huge shout out to our head programmer for the BraveMaker Film Festival, Robertino Regalado. He programs and curates our film festival, along with our head curator, Jessica Musgrave, who produces, and Alexandra Todd, who is producing the show. So grateful to this team for doing all this great work. Brave stories change the world, and truly it's such an honor to watch all of these works by all of these really cool filmmakers. But if you're watching us, that we are a nonprofit film festival, and we exist on your generosity. If you're new to the BraveMaker family, or you found us because of one of these filmmakers who invited you to watch today, you can go to our website at bravemaker.com at any time to make a tax-deductible donation. If you're a filmmaker who's looking for fiscal sponsorship, let us help you. As you just heard, finding funds is very hard. So sign up on our email list. Go to bravemaker.com/buzz to stay connected to all of the work that we're doing. And if we can help you, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or to Christina. So filmmakers, thank you so much. This has been great.
Oh, wait.
Thanks,
we have to say. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What's up? What's up?
You got to tune back in tomorrow at 10 a.m. We're doing another panel. It's our last panel.
The film festival continues for three more days. So we have a whole nother round of filmmakers tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tune in then. Christina and I always end our show with our favorite tagline: filmmakers stay around for a picture, but brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Goodbye, everybody.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at bravemaker.org. Like, subscribe, and share. To become a monthly donor, text the word BraveMaker to 44321 or go to bravemaker.com/donate. Thanks for tuning in.